Most people are surprised when I tell them that the food they eat directly impacts the quality of their sleep. To keep it short, the sleep hormone melatonin, arguably the most commonly recognized hormone by the general public, requires that another hormone called serotonin is produced in optimal quality and at the optimal time in order to maximize its own production and impact on the quality of your sleep. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Serotonin is generally associated with feelings of wakefulness and energy. And its optimal time for secretion is earlier in the day because its optimization of quality of secretion and the timing thereof is impacted dramatically by outdoor light exposure, specifically sunlight, whenever possible. Now, what most people don't realize is that 95% of the serotonin in the body is produced in the gastrointestinal tract, which means that what you eat impacts your sleep. There are trillions of bacteria in your gut, some of which specifically play a role in the production of serotonin. Now, we have good bacteria and bad bacteria, both of which play their individual roles, and generally we want to have an optimal ratio of those two. But when the bad bacteria start to get a little more momentum, things can quickly get out of hand, thus negatively impacting the quality of our sleep. What's interesting is that sleep deprivation has been linked to the making of poor food choices as well as overeating, which, as you can imagine, quickly creates a negative spiral. And it's very tough to break it because you wake up in the morning after a bad night's sleep, both in terms of quality and likely quantity, and you're much more likely to reach for some food that maybe shouldn't be on your consumption list. It's a suboptimal choice. You could do better. So you eat that, and maybe you eat a little bit too much because it's easy to fall into that trap, and that contributes to poor sleep quality the next night, which contributes to poor decisions the next day, which contributes to poor sleep that following night. And as you can see, it just feeds off of each other, pun intended. So the question becomes, what damages that gut microbiome? What screws up that optimal ratio of good and bad bacteria? So there's a few things that you should be aware of. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, but these factors tend to be quite impactful. The first one being agricultural chemicals. Think pesticides, herbicides, rodenticides. Those fall into that category. The second is going to be processed foods. Now, it's interesting, sugar feeds that bad bacteria in the gut. That bad bacteria loves to get some of that sugar. You also want to be aware of chemical food additives and preservatives. You also want to be aware of your consumption of chlorinated water. It doesn't discriminate. It's going to take out the good and the bad bacteria alike. It really doesn't care which one it is. And so, as you can imagine, that can really wreak havoc on your gut microbiome and those optimal ratios as a byproduct. So, if you're finding that your quality of sleep seems to be suffering and you're not entirely sure why, it might prove worth your while to do an evaluation of the food that you eat as well as the quality of the food that you eat. Catches a lot of people by surprise, but it could be doing some serious damage unbeknownst to you. Make sure to follow or subscribe, depending of course on what social media platform you're seeing this on. And as per usual, if you have any individual questions regarding training or nutrition, feel free to reach out, send them my way, comment on the video, or direct message me, and I'll make sure to cover them in an upcoming post.